coming up. But
Absolutely. Same here.
yeah,
Same
man,
here.
I'm
It's a
gonna let
natural
you start.
curiosity though too.
I'm gonna let you start giving out. Let's start giving out flowers, man. Because like I said, we're not primary researchers. We're just here to point you in directions that you might find interesting. You know, you don't obviously need to take everything we say and go follow every breadcrumb that we drop. But
Mhm.
there might be something or someone that we talk about when we start giving out flowers that you're like, oh, that would be cool. You know, that sounds like that resonates with you. You know,
Mhm.
and you might want to look into that, and it helps you out. So these are the reason we want to share what we're about to share is because it helped us out. It shaped our worldview or our life or
Yeah.
the way that we think about things in a way that benefited us, that refined the blade of our discernment, so to speak. And
Yeah.
yeah, man, I'm gonna let you start.
I think just thinking about it from the more so the beginning and moving my way through my life. I mean, for me, um, a big entity. Music G was a big, specifically hip hop, as we all know. I just remember going to um, Walmart and getting those singles and starting to tap into one of the first singles I ever bought was Naughty by Nature. And then it was some Snoop Dogg ones, some Dr. Dre ones, some Eminem ones. First album I ever brought was the Eminem album, and I think right after that was Chronic 2001, Dr. Dre album. And it was the music and the subjects that were being talked about that first started there's another way to maybe emotionally like look or feel about something that is either you're passionate about or bothering you or is an issue in society or issue in your community. And it really started, huh?
Something that feels real.
Something that feels real. And coming from a musical family, it really helped me find my own like I see, kind of moment in music. And I think for me and my journey and trying to put all that together, it really started when I listened to Nas, you know. And I want to give flowers to Nas because um A, that's where it started for me. And B, this segment is to give these flowers.
And I'm gonna put
You
links
look at
in the description. I'm gonna put
Mhm.
links to something significant from everything, all of the flowers that we give.
Awesome. That's awesome. For me with him, it was the ability to have such a platform and talk about the subjects that he was talking about, such an Illmatic and fast forward to just his whole catalog, but Stillmatic and some of his other projects. It just for me personally, it was what made me first say, God, this is an amazing thing here, that he's a part of, that segue me into it myself. Um, so I probably, now I know listen, at that same time frame, there's friends, there's family, there was coaches, I was heavily in the church, involved in church at that time. There are some things that I could say, but reflecting on my journey and who I really am as a person, it really starts with that. It really starts with I think right there with Nas and giving him his flowers. And to add to that, seeing how the respect that he's getting now, it's like it seems like the industry and even entities in the game that are quote unquote even more on top of the hierarchy, like Jay-Z in the rap game, giving him his flowers now, and he's getting the respect, he's getting Grammys now, he's getting his flowers now. So I'm here to also give him his flowers as a fan because being a part of his discography so early in my hip hop ear journey really started it with me.
I mean, bro, he's been rapping for 30 years now.
And that's the thing. I found hip hop through hip hop.
I mean, he's been rapping. He's been rapping damn near as long as we've been alive, bro.
Absolutely.
And probably as long as we've been alive.
And I think him,
going back to when he really, really started,
Yeah, exactly. And I think I'm thankful to have come up in a time where I have an ear that is very ever evolving. I love all sorts of different genres and subcategories of hip hop now, even some of the new bucks with the turn up and the trap sound. But I'm always able to stay rooted because it started with hip hop for me. It started with hip hop for me. So, and that start was because of Nas. So I want to start there with my brother Nas, to be honest.
Go ahead, man. Keep it going. I just do your whole thing. Do your whole thing, and then I'm gonna do my whole thing.
You know, as you can see, G, I didn't really have a list, but I got it in my head. I think also around that time, who else was influential? Obviously, starting from the back up, you know, I think one important figure in my life that I always want to point to, of course, and you have to, everybody in my circle knows, Coach White was Mark White was very influential in my life, and keeping me straight and you know, through my athletic journey, through dad being sick, through scholarships and through everything that was happening in that part of my life, high school through early stages of college. And, you know, things happened in college that didn't work out for me as far as that's concerned. But obviously, as you know, as we get older and reflect on things, there's no denying how influential Coach White was in my life and many other people at that time too. But, you know, I'm kind of focusing on the highlights of it. And Coach White was, of course, at that time, was a big piece of that. I think obviously my dad, you know, who it's easy to say your parents, but hey, for some people, they don't have relationships with their family. So I am still going to say my dad. And to this day, he's been an important figure for me and giving him his flowers just as far as always letting me be me in a sense, never really trying to force me to be nothing I'm not, always trying to lead and guide in a sense, but as any parent would do, but always still letting me make my own mistakes and live my own life the way that we're learning to live it in a sense. So definitely want to give flowers there too. I want to give where else can I, you know, I want to, you know, to be honest, which, you know, I'm at this point kind of moving into the phase of oh, and then staying in that realm from then to even now. I already gave you your flowers, G, but to compliment that, a good friend of mine who's been on this podcast as well, LT, you know, he's been very critical in my evolution of understanding money and understanding finances and understanding a lot of other things that have shaped and molded me along the way. You know, and we all grew up together. So very influential. You know, I try to keep my circle very small. And shout out to all my homies. Obviously, this is not missing anybody. I've got great friends, Ashton and you, and so many other people that have been influential to me. But obviously, I'm just calling out overarching people for some of these sections in life. So LT being another big one, who deserves flowers. But I guess to also add to that, you know, my moment, you know, and I tell my story on the earlier episodes about like how I even fell into this awakening stage, but
I need to clip that actually. That's a good reminder.
Yeah. But it wasn't per se any individual per se. My journey really was me. Now, like I tell in the story, there was something that
triggered
made me, there was some outside of what word am I looking for? There was some supernatural situation,
anomalous
anomaly that happened that started that me saying I need to look into this, and that kind of led into a bunch of other things. But you know, I just think at that time, though, I'm trying to think of who was
any authors that you read, any YouTube people you follow, podcasters, other musicians aside from Nas. I know you love.
Yeah,
I know you love Kanye.
Yeah, and Ye too. I mean, Ye, yes, I am going to give Ye his flowers. Yes, I am. I mean, Ye.
Talk about a controlled opposition candidate.
Yes,
I know
maybe.
you're going to defend him.
It's not about defending him. It's about going back to what we were talking about.
He
Ye,
talks
if
about
you
things that
listen to
he's
the
not supposed to
shit
talk
he
about.
talks about,
Right. You might not.
I mean,
I don't agree with everything he says. I don't agree
no,
with
you
the
know,
way
nobody. No, and listen.
And we can go ahead and talk about this right now. The Kanye and Big Sean Drink
Yeah, I
Champ
didn't like that.
podcast.
I didn't like that.
I'm on Big Sean's side with that.
Listen,
Big Sean has done too much for Kanye for him
for
to
sure,
be throwing
for
him under
sure.
the bus publicly
Now,
like that.
I will say though, and Ye could have handled what I will say about that. Ye could have handled it a little differently. I don't like that. First and foremost, I am all about good music, as we know, for not just because of Ye, because of what they do, what they can do, what they have done, and what they can do if they and when they want to, and they'll be back fine. One thing, if people pay attention to Ye, Ye will never let a issue linger for too long. He just won't. He'll go and he'll have a Gemini moment, and he'll be like, "Man, I probably could have handled that a little differently," and then he'll go take care of it. So I'm not worried about Ye and Big Sean. But I do think he could have handled it a little differently. Okay, and I wish that they had talked and dealt with it, and I'm sure Sean's going to get his $6 million or whatever he's owed. Everything will be okay. Now, what I want to say about it though is, G, as somebody who knows how important it is when we're talking about, hey, if I'm running my own political party here, and we know the truth about what these other entities is doing, I just would prefer you to not be coming out and repping any of those other parties, at least in public. I do agree with Ye on that part. Now, did Ye have to come out and handle it that way and say, I should have never signed Sean and I should have? No, he didn't have to do that. He started, first of all, you asked Gemini to start drinking brown liquor, and somebody with the ego like it, you already know you bound to get some good sound bites. Okay, so let's remember the boy was off the Henny. You know what happened the last time he was off the Henny? Taylor Swift got embarrassed. So let's be real. So okay, but what I will say is, G, if me and you know what's up with politics. If you was running your own party and I was over here giving Biden a hand job, I'm sure you wouldn't be happy with me either. All right, that's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying.
But Big Sean never did endorse Biden. Yeah, I know he did a show or whatever, but he never endorsed Biden.
I still understand Ye looking sideways. Now, like I said, did Ye have to come out and say that?
Well, again, my only comment on the whole situation is, you know, I like Kanye too, so I am sympathetic to what you're saying, but as somebody who can take a step back and look at both of those podcasts from an unbiased point of view, Big Sean sounded like an adult.
I get that.
And Kanye, there were definitely some moments where he sounded like a spoiled brat, to put it bluntly.
And we know that much about Ye at this point, so we shouldn't be too taken aback by that.
But the last thing I got to say about it
doesn't make it right how he handled it. No, it doesn't.
I was already feeling that way throughout the episode, but then something that Big Sean said at the very end of his episode that was like, he won me over. He said, well, I've read the 4 agreements, and you know, we can just sit down. We'll sit down and hash this out. We'll get it straight, just like you were just talking about. He's like, he was being an adult.
I literally didn't even hear him say that. G, you know, I would have.
You got to catch the very end of it. You got to catch the very end.
I thought I did, but I might have been distracted or something.
I've read the 4 agreements, and I was like, that's my Big Sean. I've always liked you, but now I fucking love you, man.
and like I said, listen, Ye will never let a problem linger too long. Jay, Consequence, anybody out of Chicago. I mean, you name all of his little Drake now. You name them all, and the Drake thing might still be here and there. That might just be business, but still. I'm
also a Talib Kweli fan, and he throwing.
I mean, it
I
is
know
what
it
it
is what it
is.
is.
Ye,
I get that. I get
it
that.
is what it is. Ye got a right to. Ye got the ear Ye got the ear of a lifetime. If Ye don't like it, Ye don't like it. Whatever. I mean, I like some of what Talib has done throughout the year, but you know, if it ain't gonna work for Ye, it ain't gonna work for Ye. He got a right to feel that way. I don't care about what he said about Talib. My thing was the Big Sean thing. I did not like how he came out and said what he said, but they will be fine. They will be fine. They will work it out. And that now back to the controlled opposition piece. Let me tell you something. Ye is trying to just live at this point. Okay. Ye is trying to live. All right. Now I don't think he's running around fearful for his life per se, but Ye know that Ye has already, especially when they drug him off stage and took him to UCLA, Ye already know what time it is, okay, with these entities that he is up against. So controlled opposition, what more do you want the man to say other than taking a video recorder down in the cloning facilities? I don't know what else you want the man to do. It's like, listen to, he starts ranting and people just tune him out or they just stop listening. You have to you have to listen to him. You have to sift through some things sometimes because he starts, that's fine, whatever, sift through it. I mean, this is what
you nailed it. That was an exact phrase I was going to use. You got to be able to sit when it comes to controlled opposition, but not even just Kanye, whether you're talking about Alex Jones or Joe Rogan or any of these controlled oppositions. It's up to you. It's your responsibility to sift through and find the nuggets of truth.
Right.
And find out what's bullshit. And if you're looking for people that are not going to bullshit you at all, you need to look for small platforms like me or Conspiracy or people that are probably wrong about some things, and that's why they don't even censor us, is because eventually down the road we're going to look like idiots when half the stuff we said turns out to be bullshit. But we're looking
pretty golden right now since 2020.
You're right. Not half. It's certainly not half, but maybe even just. But that's the thing, James. They run the branding and the marketing in this world. So all we have to do is slip up one time.
Of course. And then they're gonna point to that right.
I mean, look at B.O.B. He's talking about the realest shit in every
made
category.
Elements, and yet they focused
on flat Earth.
Yeah.
That's the exact point I was about to make. Is this man made Elements. Anybody who's listening, just listen to the 4 Elements projects, mixtapes, albums, whatever, from B.O.B.
Yep.
And tell me why all they wanted to talk about was flat Earth, because they're trying to discredit all the truth he's talking about. So that's my
point. That's my point with Ye. And the last thing I'll say about Ye, and we'll move on, is Ye is in a different point of his life. The man's a billionaire. Okay, so we also got to remember that he's been disassociated from down here for a little. Now he's trying to regroom himself. That's why he doesn't live in homes and he's in the middle of nowhere and does all this kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, a lot of what Ye rants about, Ye's ranting about from the perspective of, hey, when you creators and you influencers and podcasters and musicians, when you get here and you're being hosed because of the contracts and you're being not letting you blow up and you trying to get into other industries and you can't get in because you're a rapper and they put this label on you and this, that, and the third. And what happens with some of these famous people's kids, like that rant that he went on Twitter about his daughters, which nobody caught. I've talked about this before. Nobody caught what he was talking about with his daughters. Nobody caught when he was talking about that stuff. But basically, he was just talking about, they thought he was having a, you know what grinds my gears is when somebody is emotional about something and they get slapped with the, oh, he's having a manic episode. Oh, he's mental health. Oh, blase. Listen, okay, I'm not big enough yet for me to be having to re-step over all my words and say, just in case, I'm not saying that mental health isn't a thing. We all know mental health is a thing, okay? All right, we get it. But what I'm talking about is just using that as a scapegoat to slap on anything and everything because you don't understand it or because someone is showing a little emotion.
That's exactly to the point of that clip from Dave Chappelle talking about we need to stop calling people crazy. It's dismissive.
Seriously.
It's just an excuse to not listen to him. Yes. I don't understand you, so you're crazy.
And now the new word for crazy is mental. The new term for crazy is mental health, right? Well, they just group it under the same umbrella. Is my point, right?
Some sort of mental health disorder.
Some sort of mental health.
Bipolar.
Bipolar, mantic. Bipolar and mantic are the two things that I've heard more in the last 2 years than ever.
Yeah, right.
And And I'm like, but anyway, my point, I'm wrapping up what I'm saying about Ye. Ye talks to the people. Ye also is dealing with things where it's like he's talking to the people that are trying to get into that world, and he knows what they're going to be up against when they get in there. And he's trying to dismantle and uproot systems and change things. Controlled op and not listen to what he's saying, and you don't have to take it
sift it yourself. That's what it comes down to.
Yes.
The whole controlled opposition thing for me comes down to they are responsible for what they say. You're responsible for what you take away from it.
There you go.
Simple as that for me.
All right. Well, I'm done with Ye at the moment. I think moving past Ye, Flowers. I mean, listen.
I know you were on Russell Brand for a minute. He's not on my list, but I expected him to be on your lists that you have in your head.
I don't have. You know what? Russell Brand might be the only one who's dead. Well, listen, maybe he's controlled. But let me tell you about Russell Brand, and let me tell you what I look for when I'm trying to decipher between these entities. Right, these people. Who is getting pushed and promoted as the conspiracy person versus who is doing it and they don't really want them to be popularized. Russell Brand is one who my algorithms ain't putting him in front of me. Okay.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe though. They're like he's low key.
Listen, you got to remember
he's definitely plugged in.
he's plugged in because of how he started. But you're right, G. But listen.
I mean, even B.O.B. Even Stewart, even Don Miguel. It's like you got to be skeptical. Even me, I could be controlled op and not even know it. You know what I mean? That's where we're at this point.
Well, very true.
With the CIA, nano dust, and all this, like.
No, very, very true. Listen, I'm in no way.
If you're gonna keep it real, you got to keep it. I tell
anybody, you know, like I'm. Listen, don't misconstrue what I'm saying. Anybody at that level, and you know, I already said that earlier. Anyway, my thing is, I do. If you want me to be slightly optimistic, G, I do believe sometimes that there is a gray area between the people who get into that world and they get to see the stuff that we haven't even really started talking about yet. Because there's topics that I haven't even really, I mean, we've touched on them, but I haven't really dug into them on the pod yet for certain reasons.
But not that that's like, you know, go listen to the Tinfoil Hat podcast, Sam Tripoli.
Absolutely.
Got a lot of that, you know. That's why I want to be different. This is first and foremost, these are therapy sessions.
Right. First and foremost, right. Now, but going
and we're
back
telling our story.
Exactly. But back to what I was saying, that's what I mean. It's like I do believe that there are people who get in that world. I believe Bernie Mac is a great example. His story resonates because anybody who knew Bernie Mac, other than the people who knew him that knew was Bernie Mac, to me, is a great example to point to of folks who, yeah, he was in it. He was in the game. He was he was plugged in and was going straight to the top. But you know,
he said some things that they didn't want him to say.
Well, not even saying things. Sometimes you start to see things.
He started to opt out.
He started to opt out, right? And there's not a lot of ways to opt out, but sometimes if you've done enough, you can opt out as long as you keep your mouth closed and, you know, but, you know, there was some people in his circle that wanted people to know that he was going to be talking about some things that he had seen and witnessed in some of the things that Bob have talked about, some of the centers that Bob have talked about underneath of us. Apparently through everything that Bernie had saw, that was the one thing that fucked with him more than anything, was seeing that. Because when you see that in my research, because the people that know about that don't believe that they're really human, They believe that they're just empty, soulless vessels. They feel that they can treat them and do whatever they want to them. They're disposable. They're not even, they don't look at them as compatible in a sense. And I think,
They don't
and
have
even
human
watching some of the
rights because
propagandized movies that Hollywood has put out over the years, as you can see in some movies, there are plenty of people that still become emotionally attached to these things and entities. And not even just that. I mean, it's down to that movie Her, where the dude fell in love with his damn cell phone, you know? So my point is that some people don't like the stuff that they start to see get happens to these entities.
you said that
right?
as I was reaching for my cell phone. Just had to throw that in there.
So but anyway, the whole Bernie Mac thing just came up because I believe it showed me that I do believe that you can still be plugged in and still might get to a point in your stages, you know, 1, 2, 3 Mason level on the pyramid, and you might see something that really fucks with your spirit and you can't deal with it. And
you think that's what sent Dave Chappelle to Africa?
Yeah, man. Well, I don't know about who. I don't know this dude. I don't know. But the Dave Chappelle before, yeah, that's what sent him.
The skinny Dave.
The skinny Dave. The skinny Dave. There's other differences too, but you know, some people might say, "Oh, that's a nitpick difference," or that happens when you. Okay, I guess, man. But you know,
skull shape though.
There's some things there. But anyway,
there's some things there. We're not going to go down that.
There's some things there.
We're not going down that road.
We're not going down there, but there's some things there. But I say that to just say that, you know, I do believe that there are people who are plugged in even to this day. I mean, and when we call them controlled op, it's like they trying to tell you something, but I mean, what can you really say without getting off, looking crazy, being sent to the mental house, or getting your freaking head shocked by the reprogramming? I mean,
yeah, no, I get you. I get you.
There's so much information and research on how all that.
Yeah, I was laughing at you with the graphene oxide, and I mean, even Allison's been. There's a clip with Allison talking about that. I'm gonna.
You know what, G? To be honest, that's starting to be my theory more so than anything. The more we dig into this. Now, don't disconnect. You know, I think 5G is a part of it too. I think the nanotechnology is a part. All of that is all related.
It's all connected. It's all related.
It's all
the Internet of Bodies. It's this
Internet of Bodies.
Exactly what we were talking about earlier.
Absolutely.
The colonization of our biology. They have no land left to colonize. So now the next iteration of this hyper-capitalist world is to colonize the body and to get data from that, and then you can nudge behaviors. You know, you can. What's the word I'm looking for? Basically encourage. That's not the exact word I'm looking for, but you can encourage certain behaviors.
Very true.
Anyhow, that's Allison McDowell. If y'all want more information on that, check out the Allison McDowell stuff.
Absolutely.
But go ahead, keep going.
But you know, that's I mean, well, you had said Brand. I mean, Brand is another one. It's another one, bro, where it's like maybe he's controlled, man, but I've listened to enough Russell Brand to know that it's like you said, it's up to you because he's bringing shit. He's bringing
there's enough stuff. There's a lot of truth there.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But G, here's the thing, and I'm gonna say this. I've said this a lot. They don't care anymore. It's not like they don't want you to know. They already know that there's a percentage of people who's going to listen to everything that these guys are saying and say, fuck these guys is crazy. They talking some wild stuff. I ain't trying to hear it. They already know that. Then they know it's a percentage of people that's going to be like, oh, this is what I'm talking about. I already know this. Yes. And then there's a percentage of people who's going to be like, I don't know, but you know, man, this kind of makes sense. But let me look, let me do this. They already know. I mean, you know, controlled op, they don't care. Everybody is playing their role. When you are plugged in, you have a role to play. You know, some people role is to talk this stuff. Some people role is to actually give you complete truth. I mean, I think some of the stuff that a lot of these cats is talking about is legit. But I mean, how do you know? And you got to sift through it all. And
It's
like
your
anything else,
responsibility.
if we're not
You've got
experiencing it,
to
how do we even
refine
really
your own
know? I mean,
intuition.
you can
You
say that
use
to
the word
anything.
you use the word intuition earlier, and that's what I think it all ultimately comes down to is no matter who you're interacting with, whether you're listening passively to some podcast or music or whatever it may be, or whether you're actively interacting in dialogue like we are right now, regardless, it comes back to they are responsible for what they say. You're responsible for what you hear. You're responsible for what you say.
Yep,
They're responsible for what they hear. And
absolutely.
that's ultimately what it comes down to.
That's ultimately what it comes down to. And I mean, the amount of people and things that there is out here nowadays to listen to and to get information from, I get it and I understand it's not easy. But my thing is, why do you need to, like, do people really need to be held, their hand held and walk through so many conspiracy entities to know that regardless if you believe all of them or not, that the entity that you are aligning yourself with does not have your best interest at heart? Like, do you like what I'm saying there is, like, regardless,
No, you're onto something there.
I mean,
Making a great point.
regardless of how much shit you think people are spewing that is like conspiracy or detrimental to people, do you really think that because of what is the CDC or because it's Fauci or because it's on your fucking news that these entities and these people have your best interest and heart? Like, take all of that other stuff away. Like, why just start your own journey in figuring this stuff? Forget what anybody else is saying.
That's exactly to the
Forget
point.
it all. Just you should have enough human in you,
To take
because God gave us
responsibility for
all
what you
human
believe.
and intuition
Right.
for us to be able to be like, yeah, that don't sound right, look right, taste right, smell right, feel right, all of that.
Right.
I'm probably going to take my chances over here
Mm-hmm.
and figure it out.
Yep.
Versus saying, science, man. Science told us, man. And man, Fauci, man, Fauci. That Fauci boy. I tell you, he's a convincing fella. And Fox News and CNN, oh boy, I tell you, man, them boys got it together on there. We definitely got to listen to what they're talking about because they got it. It's the news. I mean, for sure. How does that make you feel? I mean, how does that sound?
I agree.
With no question, no, I always, I love going back to that. I mean, oh, Jay, what are you talking about? It's proof is in the pudding that we don't question shit. Flying planes above our sky, spraying it with trails for years. And literally, it took me to college to even realize, man, I'm questioning this shit. And no, I've never heard nobody.
But to be fair to you, it was just kind of starting then too, as far as really.
No.
The program definitely accelerated after 06.
Oh, okay, accelerated. But I was about to say, I was noticing that earlier. I just didn't.
Right.
I didn't have the withdrawal.
But it was much rarer.
True.
I mean, 1999 chemtrails versus today chemtrails.
Oh, no. I totally agree.
Gigantic difference. Yeah.
Totally agree. Yeah. Well, there's nothing to even say there. I totally agree. But
I mean, it's my point is saying, to be fair to you, is it has only gotten more obvious as time has passed.
Exactly.
And they publicized geoengineering in 2016. I mean, it wasn't even a secret after 2016, but it was a conspiracy before that. Like that's what we're talking about.
But this is what I'm talking about with so many things. It's you're crazy until you read it about. They
rebranded it. Instead of chemtrails, it's geoengineering.
Right? And this is why we have to
have a positive spin on it.
The positive spin. Oh, well, some areas don't get rain, so we want to be able to. Yeah, okay, all right, whatever.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So you know what? But I'll tell you one thing. Once again, it's one of those things where it's like, when you know enough, we don't have to know everything, but when you know enough, you can maneuver differently. And let me tell you what a lot of people are dealing with right now is fear. And let me tell you what understanding this shit really not their form of understanding, but understanding a lot of this stuff, even down to COVID. You will move with a lot less fear in life, people, if you just start to not be fearful, dive into understanding these things head first. Because even if they sound scary on what's to come, you can better prepare yourself for how to maneuver through it all. And it doesn't happen overnight, people. It takes time. You're going to have to years and reading and research and being wrong and being okay with being wrong and trying again and listening to yourself to even begin to understand what intuition is and it's a journey. That's why you always hear me say journey, awakening journey, because it is a journey, and I'm not there yet. No one's there yet. I mean, but it better helps you just maneuver through a lot of this stuff, and lead you to where you're going to be led to. I solely believe the truth is there for all of us. Our guiding light, whatever that guiding light may be, spirit, God, entity, whatever people want to call it, will move you toward all of that if you want to be moved toward it. But man, you got to be able to think for yourself, and you got to be able to critically think, boy, because it's only getting harder, G. Because it's only getting harder.
Water's only getting muddier.
It's only getting muddier. I mean, how can I talk to my people about certain things when literally all they got to do is pull up a video about some of the stuff that's happened over the years? And it's hard for me to explain to them why that's may not be a real video, though. Like, and by the time people start talking about, oh man, it's fake videos out here, it'll be 10 years later, and we'll be so deep down that goddamn wave as a society, it won't even matter no more. Too late. You didn't listen to us 10, 15 years earlier. So now here we are. So, like I always say, slippery slope, G. There's a lot of slippery slopes out here, bro, that we be playing with. Cancel culture, censorship, all of that. Since slippery slopes. You give somebody.
I see the positive to it, though, because it forces those that want to be awake that are still asleep to wake up. It forces those that are awake to continue down the journey that we're talking about of refining your blade of discernment.
Mm-hmm.
And it allows the people that want to be asleep to keep being numb and going down your path of living a damn near meaningless life.
Yep.
Robotic life, and that's their choice, though.
Yeah.
So my stance on that has changed too. Instead of like trying to convince them and stuff like, I don't even do that anymore. My position with that is you have to respect, show that if ultimately what we're looking for is the growth and maturity and awareness. I was going to say freedom, but I think I like the word awareness better because freedom a lot of times is still,
murky.
Well, it's like free in what sense?
Yeah,
right? Exactly. Or free in what capacity, or in what circumstance, in what situation, free from certain things or free to do. I think real freedom comes from your spirit. It comes from not censoring yourself, what we were talking about earlier. But I think awareness, I think tapping into that awareness and that growth, that as long as we're not being restricted from growing, then I don't, I see things playing out like I've talked about a lot. I know it, but I've said it on a previous episode. The darker it gets, the worse it gets. Maybe I'm an asshole. Maybe, maybe I'm going along with the elitists a little bit too much in thinking this way, but I really do think it's like, wake up or go to sleep, like it's in Ben Stewart, one of the only 2 videos that YouTube did reject, of course, was one of my clips with Ben Stewart. So guys, please go on the BitChute or the Rumble.
Oh wow,
watch that clip.
That one is the one that
of course, right? Of course, Ben Stewart. It's called Two Paths, and it's so real. We're going on 2 paths, right? And the paths are diverging further and further. You're either going along with the COVID narrative, you're going to keep getting your boosters, you're going to be as plugged in as definitionally possible by definition, plugged in, or you're going to remain loyal to biological and organic life. And again, we're using the internet, right? We're using technology. I mean, there's probably technology inside of us that we haven't consented to, right? More than likely, you know. But I think when you begin to agree and to consent to being a cyborg, and that's when you go down the road of being hackable by some other entity. And at the end of the day, I want to maintain even the word sovereignty. Alison McDowell broke that word down in one of her episodes, and it's like sovereignty within a reign. The word reign is in sovereign. Well, who are you? So if you're sovereign, well, that means you're sovereign within the reign of some other entity or empire. It's like, I think it's more about, never censoring yourself, always using your voice, and always expressing the art that is genuine within your heart and your brain, and bringing those into coherence, and having gratitude for life, and being fully alive.
Absolutely. I like how you put that.
But yeah, man, this has already been a great episode, and I've got a lot more. So let's just like pick up the pace a little bit.
Nah, let's go. Let's rock. Let's rock. Rapid fire.
Any other musicians aside from the few that we've named that big?
I could go on for days about musicians. But I'm trying to name like
I don't want to say a top 5, but like a top 10 or top 15, like the ones that immediately come to the top of your head. Don't have to think about it too hard. Just ones that you're like, these are big musicians.
I already said Nas and Ye, but obviously then there's Jay, then there's, Biggie. You gotta, it's easy to say Biggie and Pac, but for me specifically Biggie, just because I really saw like, damn, this dude, like his rap, this is just his cadences and his hooks and just his raps. And to be honest, a sacrificial lamb, 2 huge sacrificial lambs, literally, for hip hop to be where it's at today. Because it wouldn't be where it's at today if they didn't, believe it or not, people, that's just how the powers to be operate. And that's how certain entities operate. They got it. They go off of numbers and sacrifices, and some people call it devil worship, and I'm sure it's a lot of that shit in there too. I think a lot of it just comes back down to rituals. I think a lot of people slap the devil on stuff that they don't understand anyway. Even though there's a lot of Satanism in music, in the music industry. My point in saying all of that is just to say, flowers to Biggie, of course, just because, that was the start of things. But, continuing to flow out with musicians. Listen, I am a out ear. I be having arguments with people all the time, with people who don't have evolving ears. My ear will never be stuck in one time frame. It won't, because that's not how it operates. Hip hop is ever evolving. Music is ever evolving. Sound is ever evolving.
Okay, but going back to 2001 or whenever you got into Nas, and going from that point forward, who were some of the names that come to mind?
Oh man, Eminem. I was really heavy in listening to a lot of Aftermath. I was listening to a lot of Aftermath at that time because a lot of Aftermath was in the stores as singles. But Naughty by Nature, a lot of up north artists, Cannabis and Cypress Hill, and all of those kind of guys. My goodness, and just Big L. Just rappers. That's where it started.
Well, I was gonna say, what about non-hip hop? What are some of your favorite musicians?
From records and vinyls that my dad had of, my mom was a musician, and my dad was a drummer, and my dad was the mentor for Chester Thompson, which is Phil Collins drummer. So I grew up listening to Phil Collins. First album I ever played and listened to and heard was Michael Jackson, though, that I can remember. And Michael Jackson was great.
Legend.
But so a lot of that, a lot of vinyls and soul and like Aretha and all of that. because those are the records that my dad had in the house. So I was listening to a lot of that stuff growing up. But when we're talking about flowers, I'm talking about people I'm personally giving flowers to. So it really does. It
Well, that's
really,
what I mean. Who are there any people or bands outside of hip hop that not your dad, but you
I,
picked
I,
up on that you would want to give flowers to?
I love people who progress a sound or a genre forward or create it from scratch. Um, I love, I really do love Coldplay. I know that's kind of corny, but I do love Coldplay. I love Coldplay. I love old Elton John. I love Elton John, not just old Elton John. I love, even like, even even chain smokers, man. I love what they did with that sound. I love chain smokers. I really do. Um, but what other bands did I?
And if they don't come straight to the top of
Yeah, I
your head,
wasn't
don't
really a
worry about
big
it.
band. It really was. Gee, it's always really been
You've
about
been
hip
hip
hop
hop.
for me.
I know. Yeah.
I started falling into other industry just because genres because damn, I was like the subfusion sound. I really started getting in the fusions of sounds, and now I mean fusion is a big part of a lot of genres. Um, but um, you know, hip hop, man, it's breath of fresh air for me, and there's more artists and hungry real artists come out and continue to push forward, continue to create, continue to evolve, push the culture forward. I'm all for it, and I told you I'm starting some projects. I'm trying to get, a curated playlist thing going on. I'm trying to get a little page going on where I talk about artists and new releases and rate them and all of that stuff. So that's to come. I don't want to talk too much about it now because it's not finished, but um, I love it, man. It keeps me plugged in, and I mean, music, and music festivals and concerts and all of that really keep me going out here. Keep me going out here, and in the journey of trying to find self and still managing all the other shit that you barely care about, like some of these 9 to 5 jobs and other things that we've worked over our time. It was music that keep it, and sports too, of course, but it was music that really keeps me going through all of that, through this journey. So, but flowers, man. I mean, mainly those artists. I mean, you
Any
know,
underground or independent artists that immediately come to mind?
listen, Bob deserves flowers for Elements. Bottom line, and I know there's a lot of other projects like that out there, but I look for special situations. And I consider Bob to be a special situation because this dude was huge. You're talking about a guy that worked with Bruno and he's got this big old platform and he was making commercial radio music. And for him to step out in his own on his own journey and put something like that together, he deserves flowers for that.
Absolutely.
Any art, Ab Soul deserves flowers. TDE deserves flowers for saving hip hop and coming in at the time that they came in. Kendrick deserves flowers. Absol really deserves flowers, though. Seriously.
Yeah, no doubt.
I can't even wait. I don't even think our ears will be able to digest what he's probably been working on.
I think 2022 is the year. I think his next one is this
it kind of has to be.
It's this year. Yeah.
It kind of has to be. He's been gone long
It
enough.
might not be the first half of this year, but I think it'll be this year.
I think it'll be this year too. But so yeah, as far as the music is concerned, I mean, I think those sorts of guys deserve flowers. I mean, and then a lot of the guys that have passed on, and I've got there's a lot of theories out here, and a lot of those things too, especially in hip hop. But I'll
Yeah.
save that for another time,
Yeah.
and I'll just focus on the Nips of the world, and even guys that people might roll their eyes at because it's like, well, look at what they're rapping about, like Young Dolph. Listen, I believe that every lane of hip hop, there's room for every lane of hip hop, from mumble rap to Cronin to to trap to all of that. It's like it's room for it. And when you're an artist who can find ways to still be modern and still catch audiences' ears of all age ranges, and you still can throw messages within your sound, even if you are generally a trap artist or a whatever artist, I applaud you for that. And you know, You know, let me tell you who else deserves flowers. The people that are out here trying to wake people up. All of them. All of the
Well, I'm going to name a
re-
bunch of them, at least in my
and
opinion.
I'm gonna
A
let you
lot of
run
them
with
are
it
going to
because
be
I know
controlled
you. I'm gonna let
opposition.
you run. I'm gonna let you run with it, G, because that's probably where I'm segueing at this point now. Anyway, I'll let you run with it because it's like, listen, you got in a world that's so fake and propagandized, and a lot of mainstream elements of it fits that mold. You gotta have the other side.
Well,
And
rapid fire though, rapid fire, because
let's
I want
go.
I
Let's
want to
rock.
get you I want to get you through it. Any
Yep.
podcasters that immediately come to mind outside of our own, of course.
Um, me podcasters, I must say, um, God, it's hard. I did grow up. I mean, it's hard to just say the regular ones, but you know, the big time ones, they're going to get their flowers. But the guys that are, and I listen. I don't listen to a lot of podcasts. I listen to podcasts, and I listen to those podcasts a lot. But I really liked what Chris Spiracy was doing. I really like what Human Vibration is doing. I like what these folks who don't have a massive platform, but they're dedicated to truth. They're dedicated to making people think. They're dedicated to something that's a little different. That's different. That's not so mainstream, not so just basic, not so surface level. Um, I love what they're doing. I love what all of these folks are doing. You know, um, I'll let you get to individuals, but
Oh, I've still got a few rapid fires for you.
yeah, go ahead.
Any documentaries that immediately come to mind?
Well, I think the first documentary, Fahrenheit 9/11, changed everything for me because that was around the time where I first,
And talk about controlled opposition, right? That's
yeah,
Michael
but
Moore,
but
right?
but but but
There's a
so
lot of
what?
truth.
Because
There's a
there was
lot of truth
truth in
nuggets in it.
most of everything that motherfucker was talking about with that. So
Mhm.
now, you know, that's a great example right there. That I brought up and that you're bringing up. It's like controlled opposition, okay, but you know what? He's putting it out here, and
Mhm.
maybe they're letting him put it out here. That's
Yeah.
fine. Well, guess what? Power to the person that's got the balls to weather the storm, because um, but Fahrenheit was the start of me first saying, "Yo, the powers that be, they got some other shit going on out here."
Right.
So flowers to more, flowers to all of them. It doesn't make controlled op or not, bro. It started a lot of it started an awakening for a lot of people that have led a lot of people 10, 15, 20 years later to be in a position to not be so conformed. So shout out. Any documentaries, not that comes to mind. I mean,
If
I
it
know
doesn't
there.
immediately come to mind, don't worry about it. I don't have but a few of some of these categories. What about artists like that outside of music?
Music. Um, Artists, actors. I'm gonna loop them all in.
Yeah, any of that.
Flowers for my brother Denzel. Denzel Washington is one of the few people that I look at, and I can tell like he knows everything that's going on, but I feel like he somehow probably is able to maneuver through a lot of it. And I don't think many. I don't know, but he has such a
He's
pure spirit
smooth.
though. He's smooth. And
He's a
maybe,
smooth
Obama,
cat.
hey, and that could be dangerous too, because Obama was smooth too,
Smooth
all
cat
right.
too. Yeah, no
So
kidding.
so but there's something way more authentic about Denzel. I think that's a little different. I mean, listen, I know it kind of goes
Yeah, it
against what
could
I was
be.
saying.
Could be. Look to appease all of the skeptics and cynics out there.
Mhm.
Anybody could be controlled op. I could
Yeah,
be controlled op.
I could be
I
too.
don't even know. And the world is so fucking crazy. I
Yeah.
could be fucking Manchurian candidate chipped. I don't know. I'm just trying to keep it real. I
Which
don't
was an
know.
interesting movie he did.
Yeah,
Very interesting
that's
movie
why I
he
thought
did.
about. That's why I was
Oh
connecting the
yeah.
dots.
Oh
But
yeah.
yes, but yes. Anyhow, uh, any Twitter accounts you want to shout out?
Human vibration. I already gave her flowers. I think her work on John Bonet, but more importantly, what it led her to really being able to staple her identity to right now, which is look at all this fake shit that you looking at.
CGI,
To
yeah,
me,
imagery.
one of the most
Yeah.
important things next to what Allison McDowell, because now it's crypto and all that is so
Oh no, the
prevalent. But
metaverse and that blockchain stuff, that's important stuff. to learn
simultaneously
too,
speaking, very important.
right?
Very important.
Mhm.
Other than that, I think there are a lot of shout out to Hip Hop Out of Numbers. I mean, the work that this Australian does to come up with this data is insane.
Cool. I gotta check
Shout
that
out to any plant-based blog, because I don't really care if you eat meat. Like, you can still eat meat and still understand plant-based philosophy and say, damn, I can still incorporate all of the other philosophies to whatever I still want to do and still know that you're giving the body a lot of fuel. Shout out to understanding to nutritional blog. Thinking of individual ones, it's always hard to pull. I mean, shout out to Money Twitter. Money Twitter, you got people dedicated to people being able to better in themselves, man, without going and getting in debt with a college degree sometimes, or maybe without doing something. There are a lot of entities. Shout out to Twitter. I mean, because as censored and controlled as it may be.
Shout out to YouTube.
Yes,
Shout out Facebook.
Exactly. It still gives us opportunities to do things that we wouldn't be able to do any other way. It's up to us to figure out, well, if I've got more truth to tell and I got to be creative with how we do it, hey, guess what? There's another entity being born right now because of that we can use for that reason.
Yep.
Or whatever.
Yep. Books.
Well, I have to obviously shout out one of the books that you gifted me. Gia, I draw blanks until you say a word. The Four Agreements. And because these are things that when you read, they touch you and they hit you differently. Shout out to the Encyclopedia of Homeopath and Naopathic Doctors. One of the most important books of human. One of the most important books I feel that are out here that exist today. I mean, this is a 1,200 page book from just about every naopathic and homeopathic doctor in existence that have come together to create this. And it's so insightful for health, nutrition, methods of staying healthy, being healthy out here. Flowers to them. Other books, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I mean, any book that makes my dad even look at something differently is making an 84-year-old man look at something, you know what I mean? Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I don't know, man. I mean, this is
if it doesn't come into mind automatically, don't worry about it, because I've only got a few.
Yeah. Anyway, I was about to.
Anyway. And then what about any drugs? I know cannabis, but anything else? Any rituals or spiritual experiences, meditations? You ever been to like an ashram, anything like that?
No, I definitely want to one day. I want to go to some sort of village. I used to want to go to Dr. Sebi's village, the Ursha village. I don't know how much I trust anything without Sebi still being here, especially with how I feel he died and went out. And some of the things with his family that I just don't. I don't know. I'm not going to speak on it because I don't know. But I know that I don't know if I can. I want to go to something similar to that though. I want to go to some sort of enlightenment journey village where you literally can get oxygen therapy. You literally are eating clean the whole week. You're in healing waters. You're in.
You ever heard of earth ships?
Meditating. Huh?
Have you ever heard of earth ships? Houses that they're building into the earth with recycling water and sewage and all of that. Yeah, okay. You should check out Earth. You should check it out. There's a documentary, here's a short documentary, like a 10-minute one on YouTube. Just type in Earth ships.
Herb shifts.
They're pretty awesome. And and what I just did, that little tip right there, that's what another thing that I want to incorporate in this show more is, again, we're not primary researchers, but part of what we're doing right now with the flowers is like, here's some breadcrumbs. If anything hits your ear and you're like, that sounds interesting, go check it out. And I'm gonna put all the links in the description on this episode is gonna be full.
Perfect. I'll tell you another one to shout out, Wim Hof. You know, his work.
Good one.
His work on deep breathing and cold baths and cold in general and what it can do for the body is amazing. It's astounding. And listen, it's funny, G, because I've always been a person sometimes where it's like, even if I don't really fully know or understand something, sometimes when you dig into something, sometimes you're like, yo, this makes sense. Like, I literally hear what is being said, and I'm like, without me even doing my own deep dive yet, wow, this makes
it just hits. It
hits. Yep. Some stuff just makes sense.
Yep.
I think we overcomplicate most things that when it doesn't really need to have. It doesn't have to be overcomplicated.
If it hits your heart, it hits your soul. That's it. It made sense. It got you. It moved you. You know, it impacted you.
And I think that Wim Hof, man, that's another one to shout out to. So just these are some of the people that I'm thinking about. That
any other researchers? That's the last one off the top of your head. Just anything else off the top of your head you want to give flowers to that you haven't already said?
I want to give flowers to the internet because
that's
through all the deception, through all the lies, through all the CDCs and the Faucis and all the bullshit, it's really not that hard, people, to just go and do your own research. So shout out to the internet. All right.
Yep. Shout out the internet.
Yeah, seriously, man. I mean, some of this stuff is like, yo, why are we still even considering this a conspiracy theory at this point?
Yep.
But anyway,